All right, everyone, let's go ahead and move on to the next practice. Now, this one actually has a few, bugs that we gotta solve. So let's go ahead and, get started with that. So I'm going to, first of all, clear my, terminal here, and we're going to comment out the previous code that we just used in the previous lesson. All right. So we're going to actually uncomment this one now. So this is actually just a bunch of errors that we gotta fix. And some of them are actually pretty obvious, some of them are just not that obvious. So the first thing is that it's pretty simple. We have a variable here, we're asking for the age, and then we're going to say if the age is greater than 18, you can drive at age whatever, right? So that's basically how what we want to do. So the first issue that we can actually find, let's actually pause the video and think about what we can actually do. So if I run this, first of all, we're going to get an error, right? It's going to say indentation error, so expected and indented block after if on line 24. So there you go. So that's the first problem that we found, right? So we need to indent this for this to work. All right, there you go. So that's the first bug that we just solved here. I'm not gonna explain it, obviously it's pretty simple, but you should have noticed this. But there you go, that's the first one, right? So that's the first issue we found, the indentation issue. Now if I actually run this again, if I and another thing that I've mentioned before, if you remember, is that sometimes bugs are not obvious right off the bat, right? So they're not that clear because the program runs, but then they can actually appear later on, right? So in this case, I'm just gonna say, for example, 15. All right, so if I do that, there you go, we're gonna get another error, and this one is a different one. So what is this? This is a type error. So it's basically telling us that this is not supported between instances of string and integer. So basically what is happening, if you think about it, is that we're asking for the age, but we're comparing this value, right, with an integer, even though when we're asking for the age here, we're asking it in a string. Remember, by default, when you have an input, it is a string. Take a look, it's actually telling you, it's an actual string, right? But if you want to turn it to an integer, you need to actually have that integer format in there, right? So that's another thing. So we need to do this by adding the integer format. So I'm just going to say int, and we're going to add another one. There you go. So now this should fix that error. So if I run this again, so I'm going to say, for example, 15, there you go. So that's actually now going to work, right? So that's the first problem. So we solved that, right? So let's actually run this one more time. I'm just going to say, for example, 21. There you go. So it's going to say you can drive at the age this. Now the next bug which we have here is the fact that we're seeing this curly bracket here instead of getting the age. So what do you think is the issue with that? And that is actually coming from this print, right? So the issue here is that, I think I'm not sure if it's telling us, but anyways, so the issue here is that we're importing essentially a variable inside this string, but for us, if you remember, in order to do that, we need to use an f string for this, because otherwise everything that we see here is going to be displayed as is, right? So if you actually use an f string, now I see the color of this actually changed, right? So now this is going to work. So if I run this, and if I say 21 again, for example, there you go. So now we can say, okay, you can drive at age 21. Great. So that's basically that's basically the bug fixes for this one. Again, very simple, but again, we did a few of them, from the indentation to integer, input integer, and also the f string. I just wanted to make sure that we cover a few things with this one. But yeah, very simple stuff. As you see, it's really nothing that complicated that we haven't heard about. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys this one. Let me know if you have any questions, guys. If not, I'll see you in the next one.